Across the world, ancient civilizations carved their legacy in stone. In Peru, the massive rock blocks of the Sacsayhuaman fit so perfectly, not even a blade can pass through. Egypt raised its awe-inspiring pyramids with monumental limestone blocks over 4,000 years ago. And in Greece, the Lion's Gate of Mycenae stands still, bearing the weight of the time and myth. Each of these cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, developed unique methods of working with stone, shaping their environments with strength, style, and symbolism. But somewhere in this vast timeline, there exists a chapter of architectural brilliance, not of carved stone, but of something entirely different. A technique so ahead of its time, it redefined how the world would build. In this video, let us uncover that remarkable, often yet overlooked story from the chapters of Indian history. One of the world's oldest civilization, the Indus Valley civilization, flourishing over 4,000 years ago, stretched across what is today's northwest India and Pakistan. It wasn't just a cluster of cities, it was a network of meticulously planned urban centers, interconnected through trade, culture, and governance. At Lodhal, for instance, we see one of the world's earliest known dockyards, a sign of maritime trade that reached distant shores from Mesopotamia to Africa. Their cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were marvels of early engineering. Gridded streets, multi-storied homes, sophisticated drainage systems, and the central public baths. But what truly set them apart was how they were built. Not with colossal stones, not with towering monuments, but with something far more refined, repeatable, and revolutionary. And that's what we'll uncover in the next few minutes. Sometimes the simplest objects carry the weight of the history. A brick, small, uniform, unassuming, may not seem extraordinary, but in the Indus Valley, it became the building block of an entire civilization. Through the humble brick, we uncover a story of architecture, urban planning, mathematical precision, and even agricultural foresight. To truly understand the genius of the Indus Valley, we must look at this world through the prism of its bricks. The history of bricks in the Indian subcontinent begins at Mehergarh, one of the earliest known Neolithic settlements dating from 7000 BC to 5500 BC. Here, archaeologists discovered rectangular sun-dried mud bricks used in constructing dwellings, storage rooms, and granaries. These bricks were typically handmade from a mixture of alluvial soil, straw, and water, then left to dry under the sun, a technique suited to semi-arid climate of Balochistan. What's notable is the uniformity in brick size, suggesting a degree of standardization even at the early stage. The brick dimensions varied, but many followed a consistent ratio close to 3:2:1, a proportional scheme later seen in the mature Harappan sites. Mehergarh's brick-based architecture also shows sign of multi-roomed houses with courtyards, indicating a settled, organized society with an understanding of spatial planning. These early innovations laid the groundwork for the big brick revolution that would define the Indus Valley civilization, which we'll see in a couple of minutes. So why bricks? Why not stone or wood? The answer lies in the geography. The Indus region had abundant alluvial soil, rich, fine river mud ideal for shaping and molding. The four key ingredients or components of the brick were river mud or clay, the primary base material, and then sand added to prevent cracking during drying, water just enough to knead and shape the mix, and the natural binders like straw, husk, or even cattle dung, which helped the brick hold the form and add tensile strength. This mixture was packed into wooden molds, sun-dried or later kiln-fired to create uniform, durable bricks. Using bricks wasn't just practical, it was scalable, repeatable, and suited to flat floodplains of the Indus Basin. This was the foundation of India's earliest architectural standardization. Talking of standardization, one of the greatest innovations of Indus Valley civilization was the standardization of brick dimensions. Most mature Harappan bricks followed a 4:2:1 ratio, typically around 28 by 14 by 7 centimeters. This was not arbitrary. The proportions ensured ease of stacking, stability in construction, and flexibility in design. By maintaining this ratio across cities hundreds of kilometers apart, like Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Dholavira, and Kalibangan, the civilization achieved something remarkable: modular construction and mass production. It enabled faster building, easier repairs, and architectural consistency, clear signs of central planning and civic discipline. This level of geometric precision and standardization was unprecedented in the ancient world. Standardization might sound primitive to us today, but 4,000 years ago, it was revolutionary. Think of it like this: your ATM card works in any machine regardless of the bank, because its size, thickness, and chip placement are standardized. Your USB cable fits into your laptop or phone no matter the brand, because there is a shared protocol. In software, APIs allow two systems to talk because they follow same rules, same structure. That's exactly what Indus Valley builders did with their 4:2:1 bricks. It did not matter where the bricks were made or what they were building with it, they fit together perfectly across cities and projects. Now imagine having that kind of foresight nearly 9,000 years ago. At 7000 BC, that's when it started. At least that's what we have as the evidence. So that's not just architecture, that's systems thinking of sorts. Standardized bricks were not just for houses, they enabled full-scale urban engineering. Cities had multi-storied buildings, grid-based road systems, and advanced drainage and covered sewers and soak pits. Bricks were used across residential, civic, and water infrastructure, all built with precision and consistency. This was not village-scale trial and error, this was large-scale planned urbanism. One of the most iconic aspects about the Indus Valley planning was the sewage and drainage network. Every house was connected to a street-level drain with proper slope, soak pits, and water chutes. Covered brick drains ran alongside roads with inspection holes for cleaning, showing clear intent for maintenance and public hygiene. Wastewater was directed away from living spaces, a concept no other civilization of that era had implemented at this scale, thanks to its bricks. This was not just engineering, as I said, it was an early urban sanitation and public health in action. One of the least known but most remarkable facts in Indian history is that the earliest large-scale use of water wells began in Indus Valley. Over 700 wells have been identified in Mohenjo-daro alone, built with uniform bricks in precise circular form, enabling the deep and durable structures. These wells provided year-round access to groundwater. This is the most important aspect. Not just as a river settlement, but these wells provided year-round access to groundwater independent of river systems. A revolutionary shift in water management. It allowed for decentralized water access right inside the homes and neighborhoods, reflecting not just engineering skill but visionary urban planning. No other ancient civilization had implemented this on such a scale. To put things simple, water wells, besides your yoga or chai or chicken tikka masala or whatever, water wells is the most important gift that India has given to the world. And to simply put, none of this was possible. None of these water wells were possible without the brick, obviously. It was the core enabler of Indus water well engineering. What's more, the same circular well construction technique using bricks, cement rings or concrete is still in use today. From rural India to cities across the world, this method had continued with minimal changes for thousands of years. Speaking of continuity, it is not just architectural but is deeply cultural and linguistic too. Across Indian languages, the word for brick, as you can see here, has stayed remarkably similar for thousands of years. Tracing back to Sanskritam, it is called as Ishtika. The brick in Sanskritam is called as Ishtika. Then in Bengali, it is eat, Telugu ituka, Marathi wheat, Tamil itikal, Urdu int, Gujarati int, Kannada itige, Odia eat, Malayalam itta, Hindi int, and so on and so forth. One of the oldest literary references to bricks in Indian history comes from Yajurvedam, where the word Ishtika is clearly mentioned. In this Vedic hymn dedicated to god Agni, bricks were not just construction material, they were part of the ritual vocabulary of the Yajnam. What's remarkable is that in the same passage also it lists powers of 10 in ascending order, from 1 to 10, 100, all the way to billion and even more, making it one of the earliest textual records of base 10 decimal system as well. As you can read the translation here, not just that people had bricks in billions back then, but the idea was they were praying for exponential growth through the metaphor of bricks getting multiplied by base 10. As of today, the most accessible and reliable source we have for the decimal system or the decimal number system is from Aryabhatta, who formalized it for mathematical use. However, the concept itself predates Aryabhatta. In Shukla Yajurvedam, we find clearly a sequence of ascending powers of 10, like I just said, embedded within a Vedic mantra that also mentions Ishtika or bricks. And this shows that base 10 was already known and encoded in Vedic literature long before it was formalized by classical mathematicians like Aryabhatta. The Vedic corpus didn't just mention bricks, it documented precise geometrical methods to construct fire altars known as chittis, using big bricks of different shapes. Designs like Shayana Chiti, bird shape, Radhachakra Chiti, circular wheel, and Kurma Chiti like tortoise were laid out using detailed mathematical principles. These are described in texts like Yajurvedam, the Sulba Sutras, showing early application of geometry, ratio, and symmetry, not for art but for ritualistic architecture. This is clear evidence that brick making, shaping, and geometric planning were well understood and systemized in the Vedic period. One of the most powerful innovations of the Indus Valley civilization was the use of burnt bricks, a major leap from earlier sun-dried mud bricks. Sun-dried bricks, made by drying clay in open air, were cheaper and quicker, but fragile. They cracked in rain, eroded over time, and lacked strength for large structures. In contrast, burnt bricks were filed in kilns, making them harder, water-resistant, and far more durable, ideal for multi-storied buildings, drainage systems, and public infrastructure. The Indus Valley people standardized both the brick shape and firing techniques, which allowed large-scale use of burnt bricks across cities, centuries before such practices spread to West Asia or China. This shift to burnt bricks was not just a technical upgrade, it was a foundational step in long-lasting urban construction. It was what allowed the Indus cities to survive for millennia, and it marks one of India's earliest contributions to civil engineering, the burnt bricks. Archaeological evidence from Harappan sites shows the use of tandoor-like brick ovens, both underground and overground, inside residential structures. These were made using mud or burnt bricks, indicating a mature understanding of heat insulation and cooking techniques. This directly challenges the common belief that tandoors were imported from Central Asia or later the Islamic invasions. In fact, the presence of such ovens in pre-Islamic, pre-Mauryan context makes it clear that the tandoor-style cooking is native to the Indian subcontinent. Yes, India did import certain foods like tomatoes or chilies or potatoes during the colonial period, but not the tandoor-style oven. The brick tandoor, as a cooking method, is indigenous, rooted in Indus Valley civilization, and still being followed in India and by extension in places like Central Asia as well. Finally, to conclude, the Indus Valley didn't just build cities, it built a legacy. Burnt bricks powered everything: homes, drains, water wells, and even tandoor-style ovens. Their standardization enabled scale, their geometry reflected precision, and their design, it still survives in how we build, cook, and store water even today. Vedic texts like Yajurvedam, called the Ishtika, the same word echoed today across Indian languages. This is not just architectural continuity, it is cultural and linguistic continuity that lived on for more than 7,000 years. Understanding these bricks is understanding how India laid the foundation for civilization and how that foundation still holds strong as the brick itself. With that said, I'll leave you up there, and as always, thanks for watching.